Hello and welcome once again to Out of Time Reviews, the show with all the reviews I can cram into a single weekend. Once again, I'm Andrew Parker, senior writer for thegate.ca, taking a look at some of the latest titles to hit theaters and streaming. We got 6 new releases hitting theaters and streaming this week, starting with Hugh Jackman, starring in a decidedly different take on one of folklore's most adapted outlaws in The Death of Robin Hood. Two young men find their love and attraction to one another weaponized by an unseen force in the Australian horror thriller Leviticus. Jessica Roth can't remember who she loves in the gaslighting paranoia thriller Affection. Indigenous Canadian filmmaker Darlene Neponce takes a naturalistic and observational look at her community in the documentary Aki. Singer, songwriter, author, actress, and now filmmaker Hayley Kiyoko revisits her biggest hit and debut novel for the big screen adaptation of Girls Like Girls. And we will close out with Woody and Buzz Lightyear coming back to the big screen for Pixar's Toy Story 5. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Check out some of the other interviews and reviews that we have on the channel and some of the written work that I have going on over at the Gate. And, now grab some snacks and enjoy this week's rundown. Let's begin.
20 winters ago, you murdered my cousin, Walter of Haversige. You have murdered my sons and my grandson. As Warrigal, I accept your life and the life of your daughter.
Pig and A Quiet Place Day 1 director Michael Sarnowski switches things up once again with the mournful, morose, and severe reimagining of The Death of Robin Hood, a movie that starts off with a bloody barrage before settling into a quieter, more contemplative tenor for much of the picture's running time. Set in 1247, Sarnowski's take on the anonymously written titular poem casts Hugh Jackman as an aging, physically run-down version of notorious bandit Robin Hood. After a lifetime of killing and robbing people, Robin has a long list of enemies who seek vengeance upon him and his one-time sidekick Lil Jon, played by Bill Skarsgård. Much of Robin and Jon's lives now revolve around waiting for another aggrieved father, son, or daughter to come around with hopes of exacting bloody retribution. There's no peace for Robin, who wanders the land nomadically with no place to settle down. One such encounter with an angered father leaves Robin gravely injured, with Jon sending his friend away to a secluded island priory to be cared for by Sister Bridget, a healer and woman of God who can supposedly work wonders, played by Jodie Comer. The first quarter of The Death of Robin Hood is a bloody, shocking, and bleak affair. While the film could do without Robin's constant explaining to people that all the myths they've heard about him are false, Sarnowski's darker sensibilities convey that point with much more ruthless efficiency. Robin Hood is not a good person in this retelling, doing things so brutally heinous that any future sense of spiritual rehabilitation will seem virtually impossible. It's kind of the black metal or Frank Miller version of Robin Hood. This portion of the film also cements The Death of Robin Hood as the sort of thing that needs to be experienced in a theater, with some exceptional use of natural Irish landscapes and the kind of low-lighting cinematography that will look ghastly on all but the most properly calibrated, top-of-the-line home theater systems. The film doesn't skimp, and if you feel inclined to see it, neither should you. The squeamish and easily traumatized might have a tough time getting through the early going of The Death of Robin Hood, but the real test of a viewer's mettle will come once the setting shifts from hardcore battle to convalescing home for the remaining 3/4 of the movie. As Robin recuperates from his wounds and is shown kindness by Comer's caregiver and one of the island's many patients, a leper played by Murray Bartlett, Sarnowski slows things down considerably to reframe the story as a rumination on facing one's final days. After being portrayed in the film's early going as a serial murderer with only vaguely and occasionally philanthropic leanings, The Death of Robin Hood more gently asks if someone who's spent their life bringing others to their violent ends deserves the right to a gentle passing. Robin, for a variety of reasons that I won't spoil, begins to experience feelings close to tenderness, which puts him in an odd position. He wants to make amends and tell the truth, but if he does, he could put everyone on the island in danger because they're harboring one of the most wanted fugitives in history. In a performance that ranks highly among his career best turns, Jackman effectively and evocatively illustrates the weight of regret Robin carries, and how his actions have made him into a cynical shell of a human. Jackman is particularly stirring in scenes opposite Comer and Bartlett, while young Katie Breen also deserves praise for her role as Little John's young daughter Margaret, a character whose role in Robin's story becomes larger and more pronounced as the film progresses. While the film does predictably lead to points where danger will inevitably come Robin's way, the film never cops out to revisit the bombast of its earliest stages. Sarnowski's approach is unhurried, and nicely so, but those expecting the medieval bloodbath promised by the opening sequence and marketing campaign might feel like they've been baited and switched into watching a humanist drama instead. And while the philosophical leanings of Sarnowski's latest are basic and simplistic, the film's atmosphere and performances make it feel much grander than it actually is. You might have to be in the mood for this one, but I'm going to give The Death of Robin Hood a 7 out of 10. I appreciate the fresh perspective and Sarnowski's desire to go in a completely unfamiliar direction with one of the most recognizable characters in film and literature.
Hey! No, stay the fuck away from me! You saw it, didn't you? What did it look like?
Nate! Ryan! They did it to you too, didn't they? Come with me. Come on. These kids at a camp I went to, they said a couple girls went to that guy, the deliverance healer. And after, one of them died at the pool. Some people said she slipped. I don't know, I thought it was just a dumb story.
So why are you telling us?
My brother saw it. I didn't believe it.
What about the other one? You said the guy did it too with them.
Jessica. Man, now she just hangs out at the Murrayville Hospital all day and night.
Why?
It comes for you when you're alone. The hospital's the only place there's other...
Izzy, your mum wants you.
With his first feature-length effort, Leviticus, Australian writer-director Adrian Chiarella delivers one of the absolute finest horror movies of the year, which is saying something when one considers how stacked the genre's been so far. Joe Bird stars as Name, a kinda dorky new kid in town who's crushing hard on Ryan, played by Stacey Clausen, who's much more traditionally attractive with soulful eyes, rippling muscles, and blonde hair. Both come from religiously devoted families, so their queerness has to be kept secret. That secret is exposed when Name witnesses Ryan with another guy who just so happens to be their pastor's son. This results in a religious intervention ceremony led by a mysterious deliverance healer played by Nicholas Hope. Not long after that, Ryan starts having hallucinations that Name is coming to harm and kill him. The ceremony seems to have summoned a cursed, unseen entity that takes the form of whomever the target has deep feelings for. And when Name's mum, played by Mia Wasikowska, discovers her own son's same-sex attractions, that fear and those visions become a two-way street between the boys, neither knowing if they can trust the person in front of them to be who they say they are. Leviticus is a film with artistic and emotional scope, and although the plot sounds like it contains some passing similarities to the genre classic It Follows, with its through line revolving around an unseen force that's stalking someone because they caught some feelings, Chiarella's material is wholly original in tone and execution. Every image in Leviticus has a haunting quality, especially as the film further blurs the line between reality and illusion. It's a waking, walking nightmare of a film that places pressure upon the viewer throughout. It's a perfect setting for a film where the supposed cure for queerness is meant to feel like the weight of God closing in on someone. As a reflection of religious and familial guilt, Leviticus is as heavy as they tend to come. These are two people who have become powerless in the face of forced repression, and the spiritual force that plagues them achingly reflects the self-loathing they're meant to feel. It's as heart-wrenching as it is terrifying. Both straightforward in its aims and deliberately disorienting, Leviticus is a film that works wonders in its quieter, more emotionally delicate moments, but Chiro is able to pick up the pace whenever called upon. The last 30 minutes in particular are a non-stop sprint to the finish as Name tries to successfully shake off his increasingly crafty demons. But even when Leviticus isn't being openly pulse-pounding with set pieces, chases, and switcheroos, the film bristles with dramatic tension, nicely conveyed by the pairing of Bird and Clausen in the leading roles. Leviticus packs maximum impact into a relatively small package, never wasting a breath or moment, and ensuring the viewer is locked in from start to finish. This is a firm 9 out of 10 from me. I've seen it twice now, and it played just as well both times. Seek this one out immediately amid the chaotic and overstuffed summer movie schedule.
Anything coming back?
No.
It's going to take a little time. It always does. After a traumatic event, the brain can pull pieces of information into false memories.
What kind of stuff do we like to do together?
Hide and seek. I'll go first.
1, 2, 3.
I know the difference between what's real and what's a dream.
You don't. A large part of your recovery is isolation. We made this decision together. If you are watching this, you are wondering where you are and who you are. This is not a perfect science. There is no coming back.
Writer-director B.T. Mezza's debut feature, Affection, is trying to be a lot of interlocking genre pieces at once, and to the filmmaker's credit, they're able to pull all of it together, even if just barely. It's part time loop thriller, memory loss thriller, I've Married a Monster thriller, protective mother thriller, and halfway through it turns out to be something else entirely that comes out of left field, but still somehow works. Jessica Roth stars as Ellie, if that is her real name. She's survived a horrible accident that's left her prone to seizures that somehow reset her memory. When the film opens, Ellie awakens not recognizing her husband Bruce, played by Joseph Cross, or young daughter Alice, played by Juliana Lane. She's freaking out and insisting that she's someone else entirely. She says she's Sarah Thompson from Maine, a computer scientist who has a son, not a daughter. Bruce calmly explains the situation to his partner, saying that she's forming memories from television shows and movies she's watched recently and claiming them as her own. They attempt to go about their lives on their secluded family farm, with Bruce insisting that the only way for Ellie to get better is to live in complete isolation. Mezza revels in breadcrumbing the audience, always pointing to things that sound amiss or look a bit off, with a handful of Chekhov's guns thrown in for good measure. It's kind of a classic setup for a run-and-gun paranoia thriller, and the subtext of Affection has some meat on its bones, even if it never reaches the heights of other romantically minded thrillers from this year, like Obsession or the just-mentioned Leviticus. It's clear from the outset that some sort of psychological conditioning is happening to this woman, but it's hard to tell to what end and just how afraid the protagonist should be about her husband. Once Affection gets its biggest swing of a reveal out of the way early, the film's philosophical leanings on the nature of identity take firmer root, and the conflict comes into sharper, more meaningful focus. The reveal, however, is a double-edged sword. For as clever as it seems, it also forces Mezza into a position where the vision for the story clearly outstrips the budget and means. As it moves further through its extended climax, Affection starts to lose steam just as things should be picking up, making for a thriller that goes out thoughtfully but with a bit more of a whimper than I think Mezza intended. Affection is a film that barely gets all of it, but still works as well as it can under the given circumstances. The biggest grounding force here is Roth, whose fully committed performance exudes paranoia and anxiety throughout. It's a role that's physically and mentally demanding, and Roth rises to the challenge. She also has great chemistry alongside Cross, who does a nice job at keeping the husband's secrets under wraps via his performance, and young Lane, who gives a wise beyond her years performance as young Alice. The concept will provide enough of a hook to keep things going, and the pace and plotting move along assuredly enough, but these performances are the things that earn it a mild recommendation from me, and a 6 out of 10 on the whole. Devoid of narration or dialogue, Darlene Neponce's visually poetic documentary Aki takes viewers on a seasonal experience through the place where the Indigenous Canadian filmmaker grew up, the northern Ontario community of Atikameksheng Anishinaabe. Neponce, best known for fictional features like Falls Around Her and Stellar, starts Aki off in winter and silently observes Indigenous life for a full year. The trees from above look like ink-blotted dots along the snowy landscape. People head out to work well before the sun comes up, either in their cars or on snowmobiles. Kids play at the hockey rink. Trappers and ice fishers go about their business, and families gather around for dinner at the end of it all. Spring gives way to the tapping of trees. Hockey switches to basketball for the kids, and the cycle of bloom and decay all around begins anew. Aki asks the viewer to lock into the experience, presenting them with constant changes amid a unifying look at the land and all who dwell upon it. Neponce's meditative and easygoing film understands the nature of impermanence, but remains finely attuned to individual moments. There is a love for the land and its people that shines brightly throughout, but also a fair amount of observed criticism, as Neponce is always willing to turn an eye on eyesore dumpsters that attract an array of woodland critters, the numerous smokestacks from factories that threaten to obscure the normally starry skies, and the open pits that pockmark the countryside, remnants of past and current mining operations. The impact of capitalism and profiteering on native soil is visible throughout, but never at the expense of highlighting love, wonder, and a natural sense of community that Neponce clearly holds dear. The eclectic score from composer Chris Dirksen also sets a nice mood, while sound designer Stephen Monroe is able to bring Neponce's images to greater and more vibrant life with his contributions. It's an unassuming film, and an important one as well, and one that gets a 7 out of 10 for its approach and delicacy.
Give me your number.
My phone is dead now.
Right. We can be old-fashioned. You got a pen in there? Honestly, Coley, I'm not used to doing all the work that you're making me do here. Arm. Those are zeros. You know, you could have just given that to me on paper, right? Darling, it's called romance.
Oh my god.
Singer, songwriter, actress, advocate, novelist, and now first-time feature film director Hayley Kiyoko delivers one of the year's biggest and most endearing surprises with the queer teen romance Girls Like Girls, an outstanding adaptation of her own song and book of the same name. Kiyoko takes viewers back to 2006, the halcyon days of iPods, sidekicks, CD binders, and AOL Instant Messenger, to tell the story of 17-year-old Coley, played by Maya DaCosta. Coley's in the tough position of being a new kid in a small Oregon town heading into her senior year of high school, as the recent passing of her mother forces her to move from San Diego to live with her estranged father, played by Zach Braff. While out exploring one day, she catches the eye of local Sonia, played by Myra Malloy, who invites Coley to hang out with her group of friends. Over the summer, Coley and Sonia become inseparable besties with an obvious romantic attraction to one another. This isn't a problem for openly queer Coley, but Sonia, who's in the middle of a constantly on-again, off-again hetero relationship, remains perpetually conflicted about dating a girl. Girls Like Girls gets off to a little bit of a rocky start, as the script from Kiyoko and Stephanie Scott struggles to set a scene and explain the relationships between each of the characters in a straightforward way. But thankfully it's not long before the film finds its groove in a big way. Much like this week's equally queer and romantic but narratively very different film Leviticus, Girls Like Girls is a teen swooner with the refreshing twist that the dorkier of the two leads is the one who's more comfortable with being gay, while the popular, more conventionally attractive one has a harder time embracing their identity. While some of the teenage dialogue in Girls Like Girls might sound corny to adult ears, it absolutely triggered flashbacks in my mind to conversations I had with crushes of my own around the same time period. Maybe I'm looking at this through slightly nostalgia-tinted glasses, but Kiyoko's film is one that understands the art of flirting and the notion of yearning perfectly. Sonia and Coley not only have a friendly rapport that makes for effortless banter, but they can carve out space for each other to be open, honest, and vulnerable. Once circumstances and internalized feelings get in the way of that, the impact is genuinely heartbreaking. In terms of weaving a fraught teenage romantic dynamic, Kyoko is able to create the kind of rush I haven't felt since James Ponsolt's The Spectacular Now. It eloquently captures the feeling one can experience wondering if a summer fling could be something more, or if it was just a nice diversion for one half of the partnership. It's the kind of movie that, in one of its best scenes, illustrates how something as simple as one knee grazing another can create unspoken electricity. Malloy is quite good as the tortured popular girl trying to navigate social and familial expectations, and DaCosta is positively revelatory as the frequently disappointed lead. Their pains feel realistic and fully realized by Kyoko and her cast, including a touching subplot where poster child for all things early 2000s Braff delivers one of his best performances as a once deadbeat dad who's genuinely trying to understand the daughter he barely knows. You'll feel like you know these people, and at the end of the day, you hope that they either get what they're looking for, or that at least any emotional wounds inflicted upon them won't slow down their journey. If this had a bit more real estate to work with and a stronger opening, it would be a perfect movie. But as it stands, this is a strongly recommended 8 out of 10. It's a film that gets young people and has the power to remind older viewers what it's like to be young and in love. It's kinda beautiful.
It's good to be back. Whoa. What?
Nothing. Someone needs a brown marker.
It's been too long, Woody.
Came here as fast as I could after Jesse called for help.
Oh, thank you!
We've got it handled. Look, star, deputy, me, no star.
Oh, hey, Buzz, what is that?
What? Where?
Ow.
Hey,
I'm gonna let this device know how things are run around here.
try to stay calm, Jesse.
I'm the definition of calm.
That's not gonna work.
I want to talk to you, device.
Not touching, Jessica.
Oh, no.
She used the J word.
Scandal.
Hi! Oh, come on!
She's getting away, Buzz!
Enjoy the garage, Stuffalo Bill!
After an okay but unexceptional fourth installment left me wondering if there was anything left for Pixar's legacy franchise to say, Toy Story 5 comes along and insists there's still some life in the series yet. While it might be taking aim at some low-hanging and obvious fruit, in this case the increasing use of technology by preteens, Toy Story 5 finds a lot of that old magic by sticking to familiar themes, namely the fear of becoming obsolete and losing one's purpose. There's also a bit of a perspective shift this time out, with Finding Nemo and Wall-E director and co-writer Andrew Stanton centering this new chapter largely around cowgirl Jessie, voiced by Joan Cusack. Now that Tom Hanks' Woody is off in the outside world helping lost toys find new owners, Jessie has been put in charge of overseeing the playthings in the room of their new owner, 8-year-old Bonnie, voiced by Scarlett Spears. The old gang is stuck together, with Tim Allen's Buzz Lightyear serving as Jessie's proud deputy while he simultaneously harbors a major crush on her. Jessie notices that shy and reserved Bonnie is having trouble making friends and wants to help her connect with kids her own age. Her parents notice the same thing and decide that the best way to help Bonnie open up would be to do what all the other parents in town are doing. Get her a tablet where face-to-face interaction with others isn't needed to foster connections. Enter Lily, voiced by Greta Lee, a catty, know-it-all smart device that almost immediately puts the toys on notice that their time as Bonnie's favorite playthings is coming to an end. There is some familiarity to Toy Story 5, both visually and thematically, but next to the second and third films in the series, Stanton's first outing as a director in this franchise is one of the most emotionally impactful. One of the more melancholy films in the series, Toy Story 5 hones in sharply on Jessie's insecurity and fear of either starting over again with a new kid or being tossed aside and forgotten about entirely. Woody, who doesn't show up for almost the first 30 minutes as a result of where the last film left off, and Buzz are decidedly supporting players here, and while the material itself is something the franchise has already covered several times over by now, the details themselves have changed just enough to feel like a refresh. Stanton does play some of the franchise's greatest hits here, but they mostly work. There's an elaborate and inventive chase scene, some visually striking fantasy sequences as seen through the eyes of a child, moments where the toys get nostalgic for days gone by, and plenty of callbacks to previous films, and bits where the film's antagonist will undermine Jessie and her mission for the sake of staving off their own obsolescence. Only this time that last part has a strange kind of resonance, as Jessie eventually befriends a trio of abandoned smart devices, led by Conan O'Brien's unhinged potty training Gizmo, who can attest that they're even more useless than toys are once they've outlived their purpose. The anthropomorphizing of toys continues to do wonders for Disney and Pixar's most reliable franchise, equally playing off a human need for a sense of belonging and the power of having someone or something comforting to turn to when life gets painful or harsh. There's value in having something close at hand to keep you tethered to a sense of security or familiarity, and sometimes our darkest thoughts arise from the fear that those things could suddenly be gone in an instant. That's the drama that drives the entire series, and while this one isn't as laugh-out-loud hilarious as some of the other entries, Toy Story 5 has a big enough heart and enough insight to earn a 7 out of 10. But what did you think of this week's reviews or any of the movies that we covered here? Drop a comment below, let me know what's on your mind. Until next time, have a good one, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all again soon.